Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So, I realized that we were at verse 32 last time and we did not read Swamiji's commentary. Right? So, we will start with that. And then that will tell us what it is anyway. So who would like to read? Any volunteers to read? Sushilji, Meenaji, you guys are kind of back. Would you like, or you want to skip today? Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, right now skip.
Skip?
We'll skip.
Okay. Okay. So Anil Ji, you are always ready with me.
So I'm going to read
32.
Right?
Yeah. Sorry, what did you say?
32.
32. Yes.
I was asking 33 or 32.
32 because we didn't read Swamiji's commentary.
Among creations, I am the beginning, the middle, and also the end. O Arjun, among sciences, among the science of the self, and I am the logic in all arguments. Of creations, I am the beginning and the end, and the middle too. Here there is an echo of the general statement with which the Lord started his discourse earlier in this chapter for enumerating his infinite glories. However, there he had explained how he is the essential stuff in all individual beings, and here it is a more universal statement by which he indicates how he is the essence in all creation.
So we saw that we went very much in detail what it means. And there are several ways to approach this concept. Some people say, Bhagwan hamesha the, pehle bhi the, ab bhi hai, hamesha rahenge. So that's same thing, right? So somewhere, I think it was Sarva Priyananji who made a very nice comment. This is one of the best definitions of God. If, now that we are studying Gita and Upanishad, somebody says, okay, tell me who is God. This is the definition. From which everything has come, the whole cosmos, where it sustains and where it dissolves. That's God. That says it all. And then Krishna Bhagavan repeated it, the same concept. Earlier he said jivas. All the jivas, I am the beginning. And here he's saying entire creation. So that's the difference. But the things are repeated when they are very important. So just think of it as a very important thing.
No substance can ever remain divorced from the essential stuff with which it is made. No gold ornament can be made without the metal gold. No wave from the ocean can be packed separately for the Himalayas. No mud pot can exist if divorced from the mud. The material cause is an unavoidable essence in all the names and forms, and nothing can ever remain divorced from its own essence. By the above statement, the Lord is indicating that he, as the self in all, is the beginning, the end, and the middle too of all things in the universe. The names and forms have risen from him, are supported by him, and shall be merged back into him when they are destroyed.
So here Swamiji has given that example that we have seen hundreds of times in our class, the gold ornament and gold. Or there are three examples that always the Vedanta talks about: gold ornament and gold, mud and mud pots, waves and ocean. So if you know the relationship between them, you will completely understand what is the relation with cosmos and God. So it just like waves, you cannot. Another important thing is you can never separate gold from gold ornaments or mud from mud pots or waves from the ocean. You cannot bring a wave at home and call it a wave. It has to be part of the ocean. Then it's called the wave. So that's how we have to, and if we see this example, automatically everything becomes clear. What is the relationship between God and the world?
Naturally, of all the knowledges, I am the knowledge of self. The science that explains the knowledge principle without which no other knowledge of things is ever possible, and which, playing upon the field of things, accomplishes our knowledge of them, should necessarily be the science of all sciences, the best knowledge. In the sunlight, all objects are illumined. Sunlight reflected upon the lightless objects of the world makes them perceptible. Naturally, the sun is the eye of all eyes, the source of all perceptions. Similarly, the science of spirituality is explained as the science of all sciences.
So we have gone in detail, and this concept also, there are several ways to approach it, to understand it, that of all knowledges, I'm the knowledge of self. And the way Nikhilanandji approached it, hey, do you know who you are? Or when we say who I am, you may know everything about the world, but if you don't know who you are, you don't know. You can't say you don't know anything, but the most important thing you don't know. That's what he was saying. And everything starts with who am I? Then I have the correct knowledge of everything, correct relationship with the knowledge, whichever way you want to put it. And Swamiji came up with another beautiful angle, because the consciousness that we truly are, our nature, that's because of that, everything happens in a sense. Because of that, we perceive everything and can move on into our life. And he gave the example of a sunlight, that how the sunlight illumines, is reflected upon everything, and we can perceive everything. So you can call it sun. Without sun, you can't do anything. So eye of all eyes. Same way, knowledge of all knowledges. Foundation of the knowledge is that. That's why it's the most important thing. So we have gone in detail, but that's what it means.
This is not a propaganda slogan raised by the champions of religion, but it is a clear statement of truth supported by hard logic and convincing reasons.
So we know that in like Upanishads, they are very scientific, and in Bhagavad Gita, there is nothing like, hey, we are just saying it so you believe it. If Arjuna ko wo message dena tha, to Krishna Bhagavan bolte, come on and fight, and just that's it, just listen to me. He didn't do that. He made him understand everything. So with logic and everything, and that's why we have to respect this knowledge, because it's not just like saying anything, but there is a science and logic behind it.
Of arguments, I am Vada. The term Pravadatam, as used here, should be understood by us, according to Shankara, as the various forms of arguments, either the arrogant rejoinders, Jalpa, or the tiresome destructive criticisms, Vitanda, or logical argument, Vada. These three types of approaches are often used in all discussions, in all walks of life. In Jalpa, the attempt is to smother the opposition and their arguments by vehement criticism and bitter rejoinders spoken with an overbearing arrogance in assertions. In the case of Vitanda, the champion of discussion mercilessly criticizes the arguments of the opposition, exposing by means fair or foul both the real and the imaginary fallacies in their line of arguments. The aim being to destroy the edifice established by the other. The third, Vada, is the technique of discussion by which the one arguing is trying to read the letter and the verse as directly as possible, with the object of coming directly to truth without indulging in any hair-splitting arguments. It is evident, therefore, that both the former techniques, Jalpa and Vitanda, are only strategies to soften the enemies, while the actual thrust into the enemy lines and the ultimate real conquest is only through Vada.
Swamiji had his very poetic and very intelligent way to approach it, but we have gone so much in detail. So, if anybody didn't understand me, you should listen to the previous last week's thing. That there are three ways to approach it. One was Jalpa, second was Vitanda, and third is Vada. He said that we do Vada. Vada is, like having a softer approach. You listen to other person and see their point of view, and the goal is to come to some truth. So get some knowledge, not just, you are wrong kind of thing. But the other two, and the Jalpa was both sides are trying to harao each other. I want to win. I don't care. Find the truth. That's Jalpa by any means. And Vitanda is, I don't even want to say what I want to say. I just want to prove you wrong. That's Vitanda. So very simple lines we have to just remember what it is. So Bhagavan is saying my vibhuti is Vada. So now we have to turn around and look at ourselves. Do we do Jalpa? Do we do Vitanda? Or do we do Vada? And if we don't do Vada, we should try to do. That's all. That's how I look at it.
Mamaji, what is Samvada?
Samvad Hindi में बोलते हैं ना dialogue.
Dialogue. So isn't that what so what's the difference between Vada and Samvada? Because Vada, you're saying also...
Vada is like a technique hai. Samvad is just a dialogue. So what dialogue means when both of them are kind of trying to talk to each other. Because remember in Vitanda, वो तो बोलने ही नहीं दे रहा है किसी को. जो वितंड कर रहा है ना.
Difference between Vada and Samvad.
I think that they are similar, but the only difference is there's a technical difference. Samvad can be of any kind. The Samvad, when we say in Hindi language, it could be any kind of dialogue. But Vada is when you are using logic and being soft and trying to listen to other person.
Okay.
Vada is also a technical word, yeah.
Mahaji, isn't Vada also just asking the questions to understand?
Yes, so you have your point of view, the other person has their point of view, and we both are putting forth on the table everything that we got, and then together we are coming up with some conclusion to increase our knowledge. That's... Sorry, what? Ashaji.
Yeah, I think Samvad, in my point of view, is something like conversation.
Yes.
You say what you have to say, and this is my perspective on an issue. So just mutual conversation, not argumentative, just conversing with each other. Am I right?
Well, yes, but all I was saying is when we say the word samvad in the general language, samvad can be either type. It can be jalp, it can be vitand, or it can be vad. So when we say vad, that's when what Ashaji is saying happens. When two people are respectful of each other, they are trying to listen to each other and genuinely trying to learn from each other. And even if they don't agree in the end, they part as friends. But if they can come up to a same conclusion, that is a kind of bolna chahiye success of the vad.
Oh,
Okay? But samvad can be a general term. Hey, samvad can be like a debate. So that's the technical difference between the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so we finished that one, right? Any other question or comment?
Only one connecting word.
Yes.
Further.
What does it say?
That's it.
Okay. Further is the next one now. Okay, so we'll go to verse 33. Aksharanam dvandva samasikasya cha ahamevakshaya kalaha dhataham vishvato mukhaha. Aksharanam, among letters, alphabets, okay? Akara, the letter A. I am letter A. And we will see, we never think about the significance of letter A. It's very much there. This makes us think about the things which are around us, but we never contemplate upon it. Okay, so I am, among the alphabets, I am Akar. That's what he's saying. Dvanda, the dual, Samasikasya, among the compounds. And this is about Sanskrit language. Sanskrit language में संधि होती है. We have seen some sandhis are like whole line is a sandhi, But हम लोग को, I also don't know Sanskrit language, but it is so scientific, and I don't know if you guys heard about it, that AI is, they want to use Sanskrit as a language for between the computers to talk to each other. That's what my son told me. He's saying that, I don't know how far it is true, because these days so many kind of made up stories also come, but you can verify it. He said they asked AI itself, which language do you want to speak into? The two AIs with each other, and they said Sanskrit. Because yes. So my son told me this, but I want one of you to verify it so that, ऐसे ही मैं नहीं बोल रहा वो. So anyway, coming back to this, संस्कृत में ना संधिज हैं, उसके रूल्स है, और उसका संधि का भी एक क्या मिजाज है कुछ, कि कोई संधि में एक साइड स्ट्रांग होता है, और दूसरे में दूसरा साइड स्ट्रांग होता है, और जो द्वंद्व होता है ना उसमें दोनों स्ट्रांग होते हैं एक जैसे ट्विन्स है कोई, equally importance, we'll see when we go more into it. So Bhagwan is saying, among the sandhis, among compound means sandhi, samasikasya, I am dvandva. So one particular kind of sandhi I am, that is my vibhuti, that's what he's saying. Cha is and, aham is I, eva is verily, akshaya, the inexhaustible or everlasting. So now you know the meaning. Akshay Kumar, that fellow, okay, uska meaning kya hai? Inexhaustible or everlasting. And interestingly enough, alphabets ko bhi akshar bola gaya hai. Akshay and akshar have the same meaning, the one that never gets, because no matter which language you go, it has the same sound, has the same akshar. There's a lot of depth in it, this word. Kala is time. And Bhagwan had said, in another context, he said time as his vibhuti, and this one has a slightly different context, but it is talking about inexhaustible time, everlasting time, and we will see the significance of that's his vibhuti. He's getting more and more broad in the vibhuti now, more and more subtle. On one hand, it is like, see how he's taking us from alphabets to sandhi to this, covering all different aspects of our life. And then aham is I, of course. Vishwato mukhaha. Mukhaha is face. Vishwato means everywhere. It's like all faced sorry, I forgot one word. Dhata. Oh my God, that's a very important word that you have. Kal ke baad dhata hai. Dhata means, जैसे बोलते हैं ना विधाता, एक वर्ड है हम लोग, विधाता ये करेगा. What does that dhata? Vidhata means special dhata. Dhata means supporter. Someone, जैसे एक फैमिली का एक धाता होता है, like father is a dhata, bringing. Sorry? Somebody said something. So, dhata is supporter, or the one who takes care of things. And we will see in what context they are saying. I am the Vidhata, Bhagwan is saying, and Vishwato Mukha, I am all facing everywhere. Okay, that has a huge significance. So let's go more deep into it, the symbolism and everything. So Bhagwan starts with he gives the vibhuti from the world of alphabets. So he says, among alphabets, in Sanskrit or Hindi or anything we know, A is the first alphabet. हम लोग जब भी सीखते हैं ना अल्फाबेट, अ आ ई ई उ ए जो भी बोलते हैं हम लोग, अ से शुरू होता है, राइट? इंग्लिश में क्या है? ए बी सी डी, अ. Slightly different pronunciation, but it is the same sound. So he says, और उसको संस्कृत में बोलते हैं अकार बोलते हैं, अकार. Okay? So there are vowels and consonants, we know. And what they say in Sanskrit, and which is maybe true in other languages also, consonants cannot be pronounced without a vowel. तो जब भी हम लोग संस्कृत लैंग्वेज देखते हैं, जैसे क ख ग लिखा ना, क के नीचे जरा सी लाइन होती है, then it just like it's a very rough kind of क, छोटा सा, उसमें फिर वो पूरा क में अ भी होता है. So it's क with a line plus a is क. See what I'm saying? Every letter they have to add a. Okay? So the way we have to look at it, the first and the most fundamental sound is a. A is the root of all sound in speech. You can say a or a, whichever you want to say. So it is and also, interestingly enough, think about this. Om. Om word is what? The most important Sanskrit word, I would say. Most power packed. उसके ऊपर पूरा उपनिषद लिख दिया उन्होंने. It's a symbol of Bhagwan. It's a symbol of that. वो कैसे शुरू होता है? सोचो. It's A-U-M. U, and ma. That starts with the also. So significance of expanding it. So Lord Krishna says that just like pervades all letters, he pervades all creation. This is the kind of symbolism behind it. And so what is it? This sound, it represents the origin and potential of that Brahman. It's the source and manifestation of everything. And the vibration, origin of vibration and creation. And remember they said when we were doing Taittiriya Upanishad that in that Brahman some vibration happened and then the whole cosmos came out. So that vibration sound is Om, and Om starts with a. See how it is? There is a, from other angle also, it is the first sound. So, and then Shankaracharya says that Akar means is the seed of all speech. Without we cannot talk. And Madhusudan Saraswati, he said is the subtlest and the most pervasive letter of all things. So going into more like language type of thing here, what it is, that the way Nikhilanandji was explaining that when we have alphabet, so A, E, aise shuru hota na, itself modifies into A and O and E and all that. So when we say all these other vowels, usme bhi hai. That's why it's all pervade. That's how we have to look at it. So it's a basic sound, okay? And then this sound, as we said, that pervades everything. We covered that. And English language also we covered. It's in every language. I don't know too many other language. India की तो सारी language में वही है. मराठी ले लो, कुछ भी ले लो, A, E से शुरू होता है, everything. And all of you are from different regions, But even the other languages in the other countries, I'm sure, I don't know much about them, but I'm sure it starts with that, but that's what it said. Okay. So this is what it is. There is a all-pervading aspect. That's the main thing in this. So this was not that difficult, right? Everybody understood this. So next one, sorry.
Okay, you open the mouth, the first sound comes out. Even they say, even the birds when they speak,
Interesting.
the first sound comes is the first sound.
And babies
Because
also.
you have to open the mouth to say, right? And that's the word comes out.
So true. And वो अपने इंडियन क्लासिकल म्यूजिक में ना वो आ करके तो वो 5 मिनट तो वही गाते रहते हैं.
Yeah.
अभी हम लोग
It's
अप्रिशिएट करते हैं.
somewhere, and that's what even the birds have that. Even they say that it's
So everybody got the picture now, especially after what Meenaji said. Even and forget about humans, even the birds are singing a song.
I was reading something at this.
So true.
Maji, you think when we see in South, they always add A, like Rama, Krishna. So is that the reason?
Yes. So Sanskrit में ना without A you can't do anything. So you have to have. So I know that's why they say it. But अपने North में हम लोग ऐसे ही बोलते हैं राम. But वो जो राम बोलते हैं ना उसमें भी अ है. ये लोग थोड़ा लंबा बना देते हैं. True, but that's something to do with their own language maybe. जैसे हम लोग बोलते हैं अर्जुन, ये लोग बोलेंगे अर्जुना, रामा, true. It is because of that. उसको थोड़ा लंबा खींच दिया बस. So the next one he talks about अभी language से वो grammar पे आए भगवान. Okay. So इसे संस्कृत grammar में compounds होते हैं, like संधिज होती है. And उसको ना संधि को बोलते हैं समास. Remember he said सामसिकस्य. That means समास में. So samas is all different kind of sandhis when two words are joined together, and it's called, English में उसको बोला है compound, because they don't have a fixed word for it, so they made it this word. So two words when they join together, different kind of sandhis are there, like I was saying. In some sandhis, the first word is more important than the second one, so their importance changes. In some sandhis, the second word is more important. And then in some sandhis, both of them are not important. Some third word only comes out. Like Om में AUM है, लेकिन हम लोग Aum नहीं बोलते हैं. All of them, they discourage us from saying that. Even though those three, but we say Om. So something third only has come out. Like that. So इस particular sandhi जिसको द्वंद बोलते हैं, वो भगवान ने बोला मेरी विभूति वो है क्योंकि उसमें दोनों को इम्पोर्टेंस दिया गया है, इक्वल इम्पोर्टेंस दिया गया है. बोलते हैं ना, इज मैन मोर इम्पोर्टेंट और वुमन? भगवान से नो बोथ आर इम्पोर्टेंट, विदाउट देम फैमिली नहीं चलेगी, दुनिया नहीं चलेगी. आगे both are important. So that's how you have to see both of them. So, and the example they gave is, there is one sandhi, they call it Ram and Lakshmanao. राम एंड लक्ष्मण को जोड़ दिया और वो बन जाता है राम लक्ष्मणों. हाँ, तो संधि बन जाती है, द्वंद्व है वो. उसमें ऐसा नहीं कि राम भगवान इज मोर इम्पोर्टेंट और लक्ष्मण इज मोर इम्पोर्टेंट. व्हेन दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट देम, बोथ आर इक्वली इम्पोर्टेंट. So that's how they gave the example, and Swamiji gave the same example to equal importance. So when we are studying the presence of God, भगवान का भी उसमें है. And then एक और दो चार बातें, going a little deep into it, that when he said among compounds I am dual, it suggests that non-duality of Bhagwan. And why? Unity, when we say unity or opposites, like two words are different, unity in diversity. You've heard of that word, right? So unity in diversity tells us, and it inclusiveness of Lord Krishna. When we studied Gita, he said that I am in a dog and dog eater also. That far he went. I am same in all of them. I mean, it sounds so gross, right? Dog eater, we don't want to think about it. But he was trying to wake us up that Bhagwan is equal in all, but how you express it, that's a different thing. That's a whole different topic. But this subtlety reflects Lord Krishna's inclusiveness. That's why I was saying this. Dvandva, he said, means embracing all kind of dwands in the world. And all kind of dwands are what? Joy, sorrow, light and dark. Everything is Bhagwan. Two sides of the same coin. जिसको बोला ना, बोलते हैं ना, सुख में खाली भगवान होते हैं, दुख में कोई नहीं होता. ऐसा नहीं है. Bhagwan is together. We don't recognize it. He's with us all the time. I thought that was a very beautiful, subtle message that we got from that. So that is about Dvandva.
I also thought or read Lord Krishna and his devotees. That's the Dvandi in that respect, because he gave equal importance to himself as to his devotees.
Yeah.
If you remember.
Yes, absolutely true.
That's what they said. That's also.
Yep.
If that's the case, would you say the world where, he's and him alone, Nirguna and Saguna, would you call that as one? Then?
Yes, absolutely. If you go in a very subtle symbolism, we say, we think that it is a dual thing. It is a, kya bolte hain? Like you said, Nirgun, Sagun, that's one thing. And then, what we see as world and Bhagwan, is it separate? At the highest level, they are one.
It's not. Yes.
It's not. And they are equally important. Yes. And that's why when Arjuna asked that question after he got the Vishwarup Darshan, he got confused. He said, I saw you as a Sagun Brahma, representing the everything. So who should I pray to? Sagun Brahma or Nirgun? What is better? Because everybody wants the best one, right? I want to go the fastest. And Bhagwan did not answer directly. He said, depends on your mind. If you connect to Sagun, then you do. But that's not important which one important is whether you get absorbed in Bhagwan or not. If you are doing Sagun and you keep thinking, why am I doing Sagun? I think Nirgun is better. It won't work, or other way around. But if you see Bhagwan as that, totally fine. And that's why we have so many examples like Ramakrishna Paramhans. He actually did both. He knew very well the Nirgun, but he loved the Sagun Devi, his Devi, And he knew that Devi is just representation of that. But I think that we as humans, we do need Sagun. So some people who criticize Murti Puja and this and that, and so Swamiji, blast them. They said that they also go with the symbols. कोई भी religion ले लो, और कुछ नहीं तो क्रॉस लगाएंगे वहां पे. वो क्या है? सिंबल ही हो गया कि नहीं? हम लोग अपनी मूर्ति लगा लेते हैं. There is no difference. और ये जो दूसरे, मेरे को बहुत ज्यादा नहीं मालूम, वो चांद और सितारे जो भी लेते हैं, सिंबल ही लेते हैं, and then, or suppose somebody like Parsis, they will worship the fire. They look at it as a symbol of God. Without symbol, हमारा mind, Nirgun is very difficult. कि भाई make your mind totally khali. We don't know what to do
पूजा
that.
इसलिए तो शुरू हुई थी
Yes.
Target-
Yeah, but through that sagun, you have to go towards the nirgun and understand nirgun also. That's the main thing. But that's why we have all different varieties. And Bhagwan also said the same thing, that whatever you connect to it, that's what it is. So dvand mein wahi ho gaya, equal importance. So what you point that you brought, it's a very good one. Yeah, that Bhagwan ka jo world hai, wo bhi Bhagwan hi hai. Or if you go nirgun, that is also Bhagwan.
Lord Krishna gave more importance to his devotees than to himself.
Because he knows that through the devotees we can understand him better.
Yes.
Right? Because some devotees are more advanced than us. And they can guide us. But that's why in the Hare Krishna also, they always say that sadhu sangati, or, people who are like, kya bolte ho, I'm trying to think of the word. Association, they call it in English. Devotee association, they call it. It's very important. What are we doing in this class? Think about it. We are all trying to study together, and we help each other to come up, because of so same thing. Very good, yeah. So the next thing he said was the akshara, akshaya, kalaha, right? So Bhagwan says that I am, kalaha means time. And he said before also, if you remember, just one or two verses before he said that, Kal, and in that particular Kal, he had said, I am time among the reckoners, the one which keeps hisab. So that was, he said, now he's expanding it further. Okay, so he's saying that keeping hisab means kuch bhi cheez chupa nahi hai Bhagwan se, you get your karma phala according to that, us hisab se Kal bola tha. And then यहाँ पर उन्होंने जो काल बोला है ना, उसको अक्षय बोला है, means infinite time. The time keeps on moving, and it's another aspect of time is infinity, which we don't understand completely yet, but at least we know the concept of infinity. And so Bhagwan says, aham eva akshay kala. Akshay means unchanging, indestructible. So time is indestructible. How? It's a philosophical thing. Everything gets destroyed in time. And in chapter 11, he's going to talk about it. He reveals himself, मैं काल हूँ, ऐसे करके उन्होंने अपने आप को काल बताया है. When we come, it's like, gives you chills. And Kalosmi Bharatarshava, he says in that, I am Kal. So in the grand passage of time, everything is born and everything is destroyed. From that perspective, he's talking about the eternal time. So how you look at it philosophically, in eternal time, the world is created, sustains, and merges back, destroyed. But the time does not get affected. Time kabhi rukta nahi hai, kuch bhi ho jaye chahe, right? Imagine, kitna amazing hai. And time keeps on moving, and it has its own pace. कोई बोलता है मेरे को इतना टाइम जल्दी निकल गया, इतना टाइम धीरे से निकल रहा है, मेरे पास ज़्यादा वक्त नहीं है, वो सब हमारे मन की बातें हैं. Do you agree? टाइम का पेस चेंज नहीं होता है, हम लोग कैसे रिलेट करते हैं वो चेंज हो सकता है because of my mind, but time has its own pace. And another very interesting thing which is in this verse, he started with aksharam akarasmu. I'm among akshara. That akshara also has the same meaning, indestructible. In every alphabet you cannot destroy It's always all pervading. Same way, यहाँ पर उन्होंने बोला akshay word. So it implies a supreme reality, unchanging, beyond form and manifestation. So this is that how it is, has a dual thing in here. So and then another way Nikhilananji was explaining time here in this particular verse, eternal time, it's a substratum of the entire creation. That's why Bhagwan ki vibhuti ban gaya wo, And then he's saying that everything, हम लोग ने ये कई भजन में भी है, कबीर के भजन में भी है कि everything comes like a bubbles in the time. आता है मिट जाता है, आता है मिट जाता है, like so much kind of philosophy is there. And then the other example he gave, which we also talk about Brahman the same way, is like a screen on which the movie is played. So time can be like a screen. So that example can fit over here also, but that everything happens on the screen, but that nothing happens to the screen. no matter what happens. Same way nothing happens to time, it keeps moving. And as though everything is superimposed on this time. That's why Bhagwan calls it the eternal imperishable time. And this is his vibhuti. Okay? And some deeper symbolism of time. It said time destroys everything. It said even gods. Gods means, don't take it literally, means जो अवतार वगैरह आते हैं ना, उनको भी एक दिन जाना पड़ता है धरती से. That's why. So universes, gods, memories gets destroyed and all that. Think about it. Just, time itself is indestructible. It can destroy everything. It's indestructible. बहुत दिनों के बाद हम भूलने लगते हैं चीजें, right? So it is, as a Kal, consumes everything and transforms everything. That's how the vibhuti is very important. And then he was just explaining that the time doesn't mean just like chronology yahan par. It's talking about Kal Tattva, the principle that causes transformation. That's the depth in over here. Time as a creator and destroyer almost. And then just to have a context with, because 3 times he talked about time, twice in this chapter. One was the reckoner, he was saying the one that keeps hisab, I'm time. Then he said that I'm Akshay time. And in verse 32 of chapter 11, when he says, I am time, the great destroyer of the world. That was the meaning of that. Ahame vaksha kalaha. That's what, but the meaning is, I am the time itself. And I am alone is, this is from here. वहाँ का मेरे को exactly मालूम नहीं है. I got confused. Anyway. But remember that movie, Oppenheimer? Whether movie or not, everybody's heard this. Oppenheimer talked about one verse. That was that verse about the time from chapter 11. Okay? When he saw the atom bomb explosion, that's when he said this. So he actually, let's see, what was the word? Okay, now I have the exact English translation. The actual verse says, I am time, the destroyer of the world. That's what Bhagwan said in chapter 11, verse 32. उसको थोड़ा सा modify करके बोला Oppenheimer ने. उसने बोला, now I have become death, the destroyer of the world. So those were his words, but it's the same thing he was trying to say. So it's like a terrible form of Bhagwan. And वही काल का दृश्य देखकर अर्जुन डर गया. And he said, Bhagwan, I can't handle it anymore. Please, जो अपना ये जो विश्व रूप दर्शन है, मैं नहीं मांगा था, अभी मेरे को नहीं देखना है. It's like we want to see. I remember I was so excited about seeing some horror movie when I came to this country, and when my brother took me, I was like, never again. I was just so horrified. मेरे को कई दिनों तक नींद नहीं, मैं और मेरी भाभी दोनों बहुत upset हुए. So that's why हम लोग मांगते हैं, but we can't handle it. So same thing. So he said, I can't handle it because Bhagwan said this. I just wanted to have a context over there. So sees less flow of time and all that. Okay, fine. Not a particular time. So if you want to kind of have a little symbolism, so time is shown as eternal, imperishable, fundamental divine principle. Okay, and in verse 32, it's a terrible aspect, force that consumes everything, dissolution and all that. So he was just saying that how Meenaji was saying that Krishna Bhagwan is both the eternal backdrop as a time and active force as transformation. Both is a different aspects of time. Yeah. So that's how we have to look at it. And then one of them said about symbolism is that the duality is like Nataraj. When they show Nataraj ka jo symbolism hai na, usme creation and destruction dono dikhaya gaya hai. When you go in deep into what he's holding and things like that. Damru is like a creative thing, and then fire is a destruction, something like that. I don't know exact symbolism. When we come to that, we will see. So creator and destroyer, that's what they're talking about, And anything that, timeless essence that Krishna embodies. Okay. Any more questions on time?
The substratum, Brahman, is beyond time. Is
Correct.
that right?
Yes.
So this time still belongs to the creation part of the destruction and creation And the time belongs to that.
True.
Is that correct?
Absolutely. So that's why it's called Mahakal or Kalatit or something, beyond time. So Brahman is beyond time. See, he's talking about vibhutis. So how he's slowly taking us as close to it as possible, that's all he's doing. So he's trying to
Okay.
talk of the concept which we can connect to.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
yes.
that's the purpose here. Yeah, but very good point, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I have something to add to it.
Yes.
Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the preserver, and Shiva is the destroyer of the evil. That's what I learned.
So what you are talking about is that is the Saguna Brahma. So from originally we, like what we learned through Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishad is that it is like formless. And when the creation starts, those three powers are manifested. So you are absolutely right. And when we talk about destruction of Shiva, we don't have to take it negative. And we have discussed that destruction is called annihilation so that new creation can start.
Yes.
So it's a cycle that goes on, and and also these three powers are in each one of us. We have it.
Yes.
So you are right. So here Bhagwan is talking about the time as a essence where these three things happen on it. In time, things will be created, sustained, and then annihilated. So that's what it is. So what you said is also is true. And here what they are talking about is little bit more subtle part of time.
Thank you.
Amaji, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Is there any time lapse between destruction and creation?
Time lag, you are saying.
Time lapse, or does it happen immediately?
No, it's a process. See, this is what it is. That's how I look at it, and you tell me, because I don't have perfect answer for everything, but just philosophically speaking, that whenever something is transforming, we don't even see sometimes, but it happens. It's like a flower opening. It happens so slowly and then finally it falls off. So now, will you call it time lag or anything? Things happen so subtle. From that perspective, there is no time when nothing is not happening. Because even when we are sleeping, for us, that time looks like a complete waste. Like, क्या बोलते हैं ना, वो नींद ही करता जा रहा है वो आदमी, पर नींद में क्या क्या हो रहा है, तुम्हारा हीलिंग हो रही है, तुम्हारा फूड पच रहा है. Even though from our perspective it looks like nothing is happening, a lot is happening. So I would say there is no lag anywhere. Yes, but हम लोग को लगता है ऐसे lag हो रहा है. तभी हम लोग को कभी कभी लगता है, oh, why it's taking so long? Don't we say that? और कभी कभी लगता है टाइम निकल ही नहीं रहा है. That is our relationship that we have with our mind. In reality, time has its own pace and everything happens in time. I don't know if that satisfied your answer.
Thank you.
Okay, any more? The time looks like a very interesting topic. We could go on and on, right? It's a very interesting topic. Okay, so the next thing is, I am the Dhata. धाता इज नाउ वेरी, इसका लोगों ने इतना सब कुछ बोला ना इसके बारे में, मे बी रेस्ट ऑफ द क्लास इज गोना गो इनटू दिस और इवन मोर. एंड विश्वतोमुख इज पार्ट ऑफ धाता ओनली, बट लेट्स स्टार्ट विद धाता. सो आई एम द वन हु गिव्स वेरी सिंपल वे. इट विल से आई गिव द कर्म फल. विधाता जिसको बोलते हैं, हमने जो कर्म किया ना उसका फल हमको देता है, उसको धाता बोला गया है. गिवर ऑफ द रिजल्ट ऑफ एक्शन. दैट्स हाउ Nikhilanand ji approached it. That because every jiva we all perform action, right? And we get result according to our past karmas. So the two things are there. Now let's try to understand this, because this is also important for us. Some people say, oh, uski to kismat hi bahut achhi thi, तो उसको इतना मिल गया. रियलिटी में ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. उसने उसके लिए किया था काम, में भी पहले किया होगा, पहले जन्म में. Because we don't believe in just one life. And we will come to that also, because Sir Priyanand ji gave a very good logics and all that. It's a big topic, but I will try to kind of condense it. So basically, we get result according to our, we call it Purusharth. My current efforts and the whatever I have done in the past, of course. So it's a mixture when I get. And the blessing and the grace of God. कोई कर्म फल देने वाला भी होना चाहिए, सिस्टम होना चाहिए ना. So he was just explaining that how we carry a big bundle from the past. When we are born, we have that subtle bundle with us. Every baby also has it. That's why we are all so different in the same family also. Twins are also later on, they develop different personality. So based on our past, we get these thoughts arise in our mind, and based on those thoughts, we do take decisions and all that. So our past takes a very important role in what type of decisions we are taking. But at the same time, the present is also very important. Whatever we got, how we act accordingly. So Purusharth also is very, very important. So Prarabdha and Purusharth both play in our result, not just one thing. So we have to remember that. Now when it comes to Dhata, we are trying to understand what it is. And then he was just saying that when we say grace of God, what does it actually mean? It's not like Bhagwan can change the result I'm going to get or something. It's like interfering too much. It's like saying that, I put some apple seed in my yard, and because I wanted apple, and now I look at my neighbor and she's got avocado tree, and I say, no, that looks better. So I start praying to God, please put a grace on me, mera tree mein se avocado nikal do. It's not going to happen. But if I want avocado, Bhagwan can give me, if I pray, I can give me strength to go and take the avocado seed and do some mehnat, and then I'll get avocado. So it can, if I don't like my present life, I can pray and try to change it, and Bhagwan will help me to change it. So that's how we should look at it. Not like pray karne se kuch tal jayega, ho jayega and all that. Or give me peace of mind to face those kind of things. So he's saying Bhagwan's grace does work when we pray sincerely to develop deep sense of gratitude, humility, and all those things, and we can move forward. That's what, just wanted to bring that. So he says that I am the dhata, means I am the giver of the result of each one's action in the whole cosmos. Ant se leke aur Brahma ji tak bhi. Okay, sabka hai wo dhata. And then Vishwato Mukha means that his face is everywhere. Now this is very important. What does it mean that face is everywhere? There are certain things that, let's see, one person said something very important. He knows each and everything in the world. All knowing का जो concept है ना, omnipresence का, उसके लिए बोला कि my face is everywhere. So Nikhilanand ji was very funny. He said, so that's why it does not matter where you sit and pray. Because कई लोग ईस्ट फेस करो, इतना वो लोग घबरा जाते हैं, वेस्ट फेस करो और यहाँ करो वहाँ करो, ऊपर मत देखो नीचे देखो, ये कुछ नहीं है इससे. भगवान इज एवरीवेयर. उनकी पीठ किसी तरफ नहीं है, फेस ही सब कुछ तरफ है. एंड स्वामी जी gave a very interesting thing, quote one time. God is that circle where the center is everywhere and the circumference is nowhere. Very philosophical thing. Think about it. Yeah. So that's one thing. But Nikhilanand ji came and said that, look, when we go to the mandir, we do pranam सामने से. फिर उसके बाद क्या करते हैं सभी लोग? प्रदक्षिणा करते हैं. Why? Because of this. Bhagwan's face is everywhere, so you don't want to miss anything. And he was just saying, and everybody will identify that, कि वो जो पीछे का एक दीवार होती है ना, बैक की, उस पे सब लोग मत्था टेकते हैं. And he's saying वहाँ पर सबके मत्थे टेक के वो ऑयली हो जाता है. So हम लोग आगे पीछे सब कुछ we give equal importance because Bhagwan is everywhere, He's like माथा पीछे रगड़ते हैं. It's very interesting what he said. We don't think about all these things. And then whoever knows about Purush Suktam from one of the, what you call Vedas, there is this, it starts with Sahastra Shrisha Purusha. Virat Roop जो भगवान का बताया ना, उसके ऊपर एक पूरा हेम है, बहुत लंबा वाला, बहुत सुंदर. Someday maybe we will do it, where Bhagwan says that all the hands and all the faces and all the legs are Bhagwan alone. So we all represent some part of him. Everybody taken together, past, present, future, all of us are God himself together. That's called Virat Roop, And he's just saying that उसके अंदर उन्होंने यही बताया है कि everywhere the faces of this Virat Swarup, you know. So that's what we should meditate upon, his Vishwato Mukha, face everywhere. Entire cosmos is Bhagwan's body, you know, looking at every place, from kya bolna chahiye, looking at us from every angle, not every angle, looking at us directly. I think that's much better. And this is where that story comes ki that वो apple दिया खाने के लिए, बोला same point, that एक ने apple बोला खा लिया छुप के कहीं, you eat apple when nobody's watching, and the other smart guy came and said, no, I cannot eat this apple, God is watching, because Vishwato Mukha. So I thought that was a very good thing. And then Sarv Priyanandji talked about some law of karma, very interesting, because to me, you know, the practical part is very important of this law of karma. They have, what is it, and all that. So some important philosophy he brought in, which we don't think about it, but very important one. He said, like, remember when he was talking about the debates, and he was talking about the Jalp and Vitand and all, I talked about it last week. He said कि 1,500-2,000 साल तक debate चली, you know, about Buddhism and this thing, you know, क्या बोलते हैं, Advaita Vedanta, इतने लड़े वो लोग, सब कुछ किया. एक चीज सभी में common है, Eastern में, 100%, you know, and that is law of karma. Law of karma, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, and Hinduism. Equally, they give importance to law of karma, you know. And so that's very, very important. And it's nothing but, you know, it's like a cause and effect. Of, hey, kuch bhi hua hai to uska cause hai hi hai. You cannot deny that. So, but he said something very interesting, which is kind of, he's saying that if we see from a very scientific perspective, sometimes we cannot find cause for it ourselves. Is that true or not? हमको कुछ होता है और हम बोलते हैं हमने क्यों हो रहा है मेरे साथ ये? I don't know, because I'm a good person, you know, I didn't hurt anybody, you know, why is this happening to me? So he was just saying, on one hand, we know that when you do dharma, you get punya and you get sukha. Adharma, you do pap and dukha. That's the sequence, right? And then we deliberately, once we learn, we try to consciously do the right thing. And, you know, religion tells you do this way, and we do dharmic and we hope to get. But sometimes we cannot find this connection. That's where faith comes in, he said. That, you know, that, hey, if it is there, that means that past mein maine kuch kiya hoga. Okay? So that's why I was bringing this up, because lot of time we feel like as though God is unfair, or why did this happen to me? So that's why he was bringing this in. And he said, I don't even remember. Maybe I did something in my past life. I don't remember what I have done. So, you know, and then one more thing what he said, that our life is like always combination of pleasure and pain. And then, interestingly enough, Buddhism don't believe in like a dhata, कि कोई भगवान वहां पे बैठा है दे रहा है, but they believe in law of karma. So how do they believe in it? It's like a automatic thing. Auto में चल रहा है, self drive हो रही. There's nobody there in charge of it. That's the only difference. वो लोग भी believe करते हैं 100%, you know. But we, another thing that I don't know whether all of you know, that Buddhism also believe in different lives. Some people have that confusion that Buddhism doesn't believe in reincarnation. That's not true. Buddhism believes in reincarnation, in the births, you know. So the moment you believe in reincarnation, law of karma comes in the picture. You can't get away from it. Because, you know, people are born, baby is born. Some baby is born in a rich family, some baby is born in poor family, some baby is born with health things, some baby is born. We know. How can the variety come? You know, because the baby has not done anything. Poor baby is so innocent, like just born. Has to have a past. So automatically he was just saying. And then we know that each jiva goes through different kind of experiences, things like that, you know. So if he says that all this has to be some past is there automatically. So I thought this was something important, because if sometime we have a doubt, do we have other life, this, that, this is a proof. That's why I was bringing this up, okay? So we have existed before, and this is why it is happening. And let's see. Yeah, self-administrating system there. I talked about that. So what he's saying in this particular verse, when Bhagwan says that I am a dhata, that means he called it a cosmic banker. Bhagwan is a cosmic banker. He keeps all of our information, and he's very fair. So he's saying it's not like he doesn't do any scams. That's what it is like. Our teacher used to say that God has a perfect math. एक पाई भी इधर से उधर नहीं होती है. And anybody who is in accounting knows that when because I used to do a little bit of this tax accounting and all in Houston. उसमें millions of dollars होता है, अगर एक पैसा भी इधर उधर होता है ना, we have to rack our brain to correct it. We won't let us go until we find कि कहाँ पर है वो. कभी कभी इतना irritation भी होता था. So अगर हम लोग दुनिया में इतना हिसाब रख सकते हैं, तो भगवान तो एकदम perfect है, कर्म फल दाता. That's where it's coming from, this whole thing. And he's saying that in our Hinduism, whichever way you go, whether Shiva ko le lo, Vishnu ko le lo, Devi ko le lo, all of them are, they will say ki giver of the result. That is a part of it. That's what Bhagwan is saying, it's my glory. And then you will say, oh, okay, is Bhagwan making me suffer? No. Bhagwan is saying that I am just the builder. You are the blueprint. And he's saying that this particular whole thing is in Aitreya Upanishad that we will be studying. Okay, so now how whole system happens. So we can't blame anybody. That was the most important thing, that it is happening because of us only. Because I don't know exactly, we'll be studying that. It seems that Bhagwan also is helpless, because whatever you have done, he has to give you result accordingly. That's the most important thing, that you can't change that. And then he was just saying a point that we also see, that he's saying sometimes there are people who are very successful in their life, and other time the same kind of caliber people have, but they are not successful. They try so hard and all that. In the end, if we just surrender to this dhata, we will be okay. Otherwise, we will be always saying, why me, and things like that. That's why I was bringing that up. So basically, that's what this verse is. It started with the sound A, then it went to grammar, then it went to time, and then cosmic function as dhata. Okay? So it's just talking about Bhagwan pervades everything in different ways, and that is his glory. Any question about dhata and karma phala and all that? No? We'll have to read it next time. Okay, no question, no comment, and I can close Bhagavad Gita here. And we'll read next time. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhya moksha ishyami ma shuchaha. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.